Representative Dubitsky of the 47th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the hour is late, so I will try to be brief. I sat through many hours of testimony by children and their beleaguered parents discussing horrific conditions that these children were going through, and in many instances they had to flee the state to get any relief. Our doctors prescribe very, very powerful drugs, all kinds of opiates, depressants, antidepressants, anxiety medicine, all types of really, really serious medication, much of which, or some of which has very dangerous long-term consequences, and some of which just doesn't help these people. These children are, in some instances, in horrific pain. They have many, many seizures, dozens, if not hundreds of seizures a day. And there's a substance that they feel is going to give them some relief. Now, I look at it from the perspective of a parent, and I ask, you know, if you were a parent and your child was terminally ill and was suffering immensely, or had one of the conditions on the list, which is a very short list, some cerebral palsy, you know, the spinal injuries, that, you know, they just cause, you know, horrific pain. If you're a parent and your child was truly suffering and you could not find a substance that your doctor could legally prescribe, wouldn't you do everything you possibly could to try to find some relief for your child? I know I certainly would. Now, you know, obviously we want to be very cognizant of the fact that we're dealing with a drug that is abused. But in this instance, under this bill, we're really talking about something that we're not talking about toddlers walking around smoking joints. We're not. We're talking about a substance that is prescribed. I'm not sure we're allowed to use that term, or doctors aren't allowed to use that term because of federal law, but it is prescribed. Two doctors have to agree, along with the parent, and it is a liquid extract medication that these children will be taking. Now, this bill is certainly not perfect. I have questions about dosage. Who determines the dosage? How is it administered? In what dosage? At this point, I'm just not sure. The bill really doesn't speak to that, and frankly, I think it really should. But there are there's some bureaucracy in there I don't think is particularly necessary. But going to the underlying bill, I just look at it from the perspective of a person whose child could be in that situation. And I just think that, you know, certainly my constituents and the people of this state who would be in that situation would really want to do everything they possibly could. And I think that if the doctors and the parents feel that this is the appropriate treatment for a child in that horrible situation, that the people in this room shouldn't prevent it. So although I'm torn to some extent because I don't think this is a perfect bill, I am going to support the bill, and I do hope that it brings some relief to the people who were testifying before our committee, and the people who are the children who are really suffering, and that might get some relief from it. Now, the last thing is I did hope that Representative Shaban's bill regarding the 10th Amendment would have been presented and passed, because I do think, from a constitutional standpoint, there are people who would otherwise want to vote for the bill but are a little bit torn because they're concerned that marijuana is illegal under federal law. It is. We all know that. And we can either consider it and say, well, if it's illegal under federal law, how is it that we will allow it? Or we just ignore federal law. I choose not to just ignore federal law. I choose to think of it that we, as a state, have the power to regulate this product pursuant to the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And although there was little debate on it, I do think that's an important issue, and I, for one, am satisfied legally that that is an adequate way to address the fact that the substance would be legal in Connecticut, but illegal under federal law. Thank you.